Hello and welcome to Stay Ahead Stretch Workout number 1. In this workout, we're going to be going through some great range of motion exercises and then go through some intermediate stretches leading up to a deeper stretch all the way at the end. A yoga block's always going to be a good idea. I highly recommend that you have it for this workout and for all the stretch workouts. Let's begin from a seated position. Now we want to warm ourselves up, and the best way to do that is to start with some deep breathing. So just get comfortable here from a seated position. You can scoot the feet out a little away from you if that helps you to sit here, or you can place the block underneath your hips and then place the hands on the knees. Now we're just going to start to take a couple of nice deep breaths in and out here. Exhale. We're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Inhale as deep as you can. And exhale. A couple more of those. It's amazing how it helps the body to warm up simply by breathing deeply. Last one. Now let's keep breathing deeply as we start to do some easy range of motion. So we're just going to start with some circles here. As we start into these range of motion exercises, remember we're not stretching yet. We're just moving. That's how we warm the body up for deeper stretches. So as we make these simple circles and these other exercises, it doesn't feel like a stretch. All it feels like you're doing some easy moves just to get the body warmed up while we breathe deeply. Let's reverse the direction. Find a little rhythm, a little flow. And then keeping that idea of just moving gently through position, we're just going to take a little side bend here. Again, doesn't feel like a stretch. It feels like a movement. This is how we're getting the body warmed up and ready. Notice how this simple movement starts to feel like you're opening through the rib cage and through the shoulders. And then we'll transition here to easy twist. And again, I want this twist to be pretty small. You're not going into any kind of feeling of stretch here. Just little movement side to side. All right, let's keep warming up from tabletop. Swing the legs behind. Use cushioning underneath the knees if you need that option for the knees or the wrist. Tabletop position, round the spine and tuck the chin. Let's keep breathing deeply as well. Inhale as you arc and look up. Exhale as you round and tuck. Deep, deep breath. Always breathing in through the nose. You can breathe out through the nose or out through the mouth. Now keep going with this rounding and arcing of the spine, but let's add the hip circles. So we're going to circle the hips, and you're still rounding and arcing the spine. So see if you can get both at the same time. It's a little tricky. It's kind of that hula hoop action. You've got to get the hips to make circles, but then you've also got to get the rounding and arcing of the spine to happen as well. And then let's reverse the direction. Deep breath. And then back to the center position. All right, fantastic. Now we're going to be coming into a lunge position. So to be able to do this safely, you might want to walk your hands toward the left just a little bit so it makes it easier to swing the right foot out in front. Now, all we're going to do here is make some nice, easy movements. So your hands up on a block might be a good idea here. So I've got the block right to the inside of the foot. All we're going to do is move forward and back, forward and back. So we're still basically warming up here. You may start to feel a little more stretch happening as we go through these exercises. But notice with this movement, how you're getting nice work in the front leg, the hamstring of the front leg, and the hip of the back leg. So any kind of little shifting forward and back that you can do is going to be great here. I'm picking the toes up off the ground each time. You can maybe try a few with the hands down on the ground if that's applicable to you. All right, now from here, we're going to shift the hips back and pick the front toes off the ground. Again, the block is a great idea. I'm going to use it myself on this exercise. So sometimes we have to scoot the front foot forward just a couple of inches to get this front leg to straighten a little more. And I want the hips directly over this back knee in this position that you see I've got it here. So hands up on a block is useful for most of us. Now, you can still have this front leg bent. It does not have to be all the way straight. I just want you to start to feel a stretch here in the back side of that front leg. We're going to pull the belly in, and the way that you create stretch here is by engaging your muscles. So we're going to do that by pushing the front foot into the ground, and you're going to notice the muscles start to activate there. And then the second thing we can do is start to pull the toes back, and you're going to start to feel a more intense stretch there in the hip flexor, in the hamstring rather, of that front leg. Now you can even accentuate this more by lifting the chin and chest, pulling the belly in just a little bit more. Let's give this 3 more breaths. Feel what happens when you push the foot into the ground and slide your hips back a couple of inches. Give yourself that deep, deep breath. All right, take your time. We're going to slowly move out of that position, swinging the front leg back. And let's go to the other side. So you can walk the hands over toward the right a little bit if that helps, in order to help you swing the left foot out in front. And then again, use the block if you need it. We're going to do that warm-up exercise on this side. So shifting forward and back. The reason the movement is so useful for warm-up is that we don't go into the position too deep too quickly. It just feels good to make this movement. And then in a minute, like we did on the first side, we'll go in a little bit deeper. A couple more. Okay, let's hold the position. Slide the front foot forward a little bit more. Pick the toes off the ground. Hands up on the block if that's useful to you. Again, front leg can certainly be bent. If your leg is like that and you're still feeling a stretch, that's perfectly fine. Or maybe the leg is a little straighter. We're going to pull the hips back so the hip is over the back knee. And then we start to find the stretch. So all those same cues we did on the first side. Push the heel into the ground. Pull the toes back. Lift the chin and chest. You should be feeling something happening. Now, let the hips move back a little more without sliding the heel back to create more stretch in that front leg. And you're certainly welcome to have the hands on the ground if that's better for you. But getting that spine to lengthen and the chest to lift is going to really enhance this stretch. Now remember, let's give it a little bit more time. So we're going to hold here 3 more breaths. Push the heel into the ground, pull the toes back, slide the hips back. Last breath. And then release, and be careful as you come out of that stretch, swing the leg behind. All right, very good. Now we're going to keep going with the lunge position. So once again, bring the right foot forward back into lunge. But this time, the hands are going to rise up onto the front knee. So if you don't have good cushioning under your back knee, you might very well want to have a pad or a blanket underneath this left knee. We're going to be in this upright position. Now, we're going to continue to stretch here through the hip flexor, but this time we do this by engaging the muscles, and that's really the way we get the stretch. So I want this knee almost directly underneath the hip. You can see my knee is back by a couple of inches behind the hip, but it's pretty much underneath and supporting the pelvis. So from here, the hands are on the front knee. We're going to start to squeeze muscles tight. Here, hip flexor, glutes squeezing, feet push into the ground. Hug the legs toward each other, lengthen the spine, and we're looking for a stretch right here, the front side of that back leg. Now keep lengthening tall through the spine. You're pushing the feet firmly into the ground and hugging the legs in and squeezing the glutes. All that muscle activation should create the stretch we're looking for. Give it one more long, deep breath. Good. Now from here, bring your left hand down to the ground or onto the block. Either way works. We're going to turn toward the right into a twist. Option to raise the right hand up high. Push your feet firmly into the ground and rotate the torso. Turn to look up. Give it a deep breath. One more breath, one more stretch. And then release, take your time, bring the hand down to the ground, and we'll swing the leg back, and let's get all that on the other side. Left foot swings forward, cushioning underneath the right knee if you need it, and then hands come up onto the front knee. So here we are again in this same position with the back knee supporting the position of the pelvis. We're not shifted forward like this, too hard on the back. We're going to lengthen the spine nice and tall, pull the belly in, and once again, we remind ourselves to get all those muscle activations to help create the hip flexor stretch on the right leg. So push the feet into the ground, hug the legs toward each other, pull the belly in, squeeze the bottom muscles. It's a lot of engagements. There's even one more we can do. Pull the belly in toward the spine, and then roll the tailbone down. When you roll the tailbone down, it actually lifts the hip bone on the front side, the attachment of the quad on that front side. I'm definitely getting a good stretch there. Let's give it a couple more breaths, keeping the spine elongated. One more breath. Find the feet into the ground, hug the legs in, squeeze your muscles tight. And release. We bring the hand onto the ground or onto the block, and then twist toward your left, and reach that hand up high into our twist. Take a look upward. Pull the belly in and breathe. Hold it one more breath. We're going to find this twist, rotate the torso toward the sky. And then release and lower that hand all the way down and swing the front leg back. And we're going to come to a seated position. All right, so far so good. Now we're going to continue to work these same muscles in just a little different angles. So in this position, seated, we're going to lean toward the right a little and bring your left foot back by your left hip. Now, a lot of options here. If you have any restrictions in the ankle, the knee, the hip, if you've had a hip replacement or knee replacement, you're going to just lean over and give yourself room for the knee and the hip to be able to be in this position. Otherwise, if you're able, you come to a more vertical position and don't have those toes aimed outward. That's too hard on the knee. Top of the foot faces into the ground. Again, you can be leaned over to the right, or you could be vertical. We're looking for a stretch here, maybe in the foot as well. If this is easy for you, feel free to lean back onto the elbows until you find a stretch. Some of you might even be able to get onto the shoulders. That's too deep of a stretch for me, but you could even drop all the way down to the shoulders. Now we're going to feel the belly pulling in nice and firm there. And the next thing we want to do is push the left knee into the ground to help anchor this stretch. Think about your anchor points when you're doing stretches. This hip flexor, this quad group, all in here. Where are the anchor points? The knee, the pelvis. Anchor them down, and that's going to help create your stretch. Give it another breath. Take your time. Slowly release, swing that leg out in front, and let's go right to the other side. So lean over as much as you need to. Right foot tucks back by the right hip. You can stay leaned over if you're protecting or need a little more space for the joints, or you come upright. Knees close together. Vertical position works great if you're already feeling the stretch. No need to go further. If you do need it further and lean back onto the elbows or even the shoulders, please feel free. Press the knee into the ground to find that anchor. It's so helpful to just pause and give these stretches a little bit more time. Let's give this 3 more breaths. And then, of course, as always, moving slowly when you come out of these deeper stretches. All right, fantastic. So we are to our final stretch here. We've been working up to this. We're going to come back to our lunge position. So swing those legs out in front. Again, the block may be handy for you, so have it close by. We're going to, again, swing the right foot out in front. Now, this version, the hands are going to be on the ground, and that's why we can walk the back knee back and have the pelvis well in front of the back knee. So the hands are going to be our support rather than the back knee. Now we're going to walk the front foot out to the right a little, and you're going to immediately feel a hip stretch and a hip flexor stretch, and this is a fantastic position to work on. Now you might want to be on your hands, or if this is easy for you, try down on one elbow or all the way down on 2 elbows. That's the deepest option. Or if you're kind of caught in between the two, place that block underneath the forearms. So you're going to find your adjustments. Belly muscles should be active. Push both feet into the ground. Now, we don't really worry about a straight spine here. The back is naturally going to be rounded, but if you do look up, even just a little bit, you probably will feel a little deeper stretch. Now, we've already been holding into several seconds. Let's hang in here just a little bit longer. 3 more breaths. Take your time. Long breaths. All right. Lift up onto your hands. Now, the final position here is to pick the back foot off the ground. Now, some of us, this is all you're going to do. You're just going to hold this position, and that's enough of a stretch. If it's too much, just bring the foot back to the ground. Others of you might be able to reach toward your right, reaching the right hand behind, grasping a hold of the foot. This is a deep stretch, so you do not have to do this. Only if you're pretty flexible would you give this a try. It's a pretty hard pose to hold. We're only going to be here 3 more breaths. Stay with it. 1 more long breath. And then release that foot. And take your time. Move it around. Maybe shift back a little bit. And then let's get the other side, and we will be all finished for today with our stretch. So slowly, carefully switching sides. Left foot comes forward. Hands to the inside of the front foot. Shift your hips way forward of the back knee this time. I even like to step the back knee back a little further. Point the back toes back. Walk the front foot a little wider if you like. You're on the hands, on one elbow, or use the block. Or perhaps both elbows. And again, you're always making little adjustments to get into the ideal position. So find your breath. We really want to focus and still the mind here so the mind isn't running crazy. You're focused on what you're feeling. You're breathing deeply, experiencing the stretch rather than trying to avoid it. All right, now we've already been here several seconds and several breaths. Let's stick with it and really try to lengthen out these last 3 breaths in the pose. Stay with it. One more long, deep breath. Push up onto the hands. Last one. First option, just pick the front or the back foot up off the ground and feel free to hold there. Or if that's too much, keep the foot on the ground. Or if you want more, left arm sweeps behind, open your chest toward the left and grab a hold of the ankle. Or if you can't quite get the ankle, you can point the toes and that'll be a little easier reach to grab a hold around the toes. Try not to sink into that support arm. That's part of the hard part of just holding yourself in this position. Now pull the foot in if you need to. Breathe deeply. One more breath. And then take your time releasing that position and feel free to move it around just a little bit. All right, going back to seated position. And nice job. Boy, that is so nice. Be able to repeat these stretch workouts frequently, maybe even one every day. All right, good job staying ahead today. I'll see you next time.